All right, today we're diving into something pretty powerful, fasting. We're going to break down a sermon that argues this ancient practice isn't just a religious thing. It's a tool that can literally change your reality. So let me ask you this. What if just skipping a meal could actually change your destiny? I know, it sounds a little extreme, right? But that's the central idea we're digging into today. The source for all this is a sermon by Apostle Michael Orokpo, and his whole argument is that fasting isn't just about self-discipline. It's about tapping into a real, tangible, spiritual force, one that can actually reshape the circumstances of your life. Okay, so first things first, why is fasting supposedly so necessary? I mean, why is it presented as this non-negotiable thing, and not just another spiritual option you can take or leave? Well, the sermon gives us 3 big reasons why it's considered so essential. Okay, first up, it's a divine call. The sermon points to scripture and basically says God himself calls for it. Simple as that. Second, it's seen as a mark of spiritual maturity. The idea is that you get to a point where you fast for strength, not just to satisfy your own pleasure. And the third reason, it's a huge test. The argument here is that everyone gets tested by their appetite, from Adam in the garden all the way to Jesus in the wilderness. And the sermon is really blunt about this. Here's a direct quote. "If you have not conquered your appetite, you are a failure waiting to happen." Whoa. The thinking is that if you can't master this one basic human drive, well, everything else in your life is built on a shaky foundation. Okay, so if it's that important, what does a true fast even look like? Because it's pretty clear it's not as simple as just skipping lunch. And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the definition here. Fasting isn't just about food. It's about your ability to suspend all of your personal desires to really truly seek God for a specific season. So, according to this teaching, a real fast has 4 key ingredients. Number 1, you got to turn your focus to the Lord, not just Netflix. 2, you have to actually help people in need. 3, you need to set yourself apart for some serious focused prayer. And finally, number 4, you have to genuinely humble yourself. And this really highlights the huge difference between what's called a true fast and what the sermon just calls a hunger strike. On one side, you've got this false fasting, right? You're just filling time with movies, maybe holding a grudge, not praying. It's all for show. But a true fast, that's about turning to God, acting with kindness and justice, deep prayer, and real humility. The sermon's point is without those things, you're just making yourself hungry for no spiritual reason at all. All right, so let's say you do it right. You check all the boxes. What's the payoff? What's the ultimate reward? Well, according to this sermon, it generates something incredibly powerful: divine favor. And to show just how powerful this is, the sermon brings up the story of Esther. And you have to understand the situation she was in. Her entire people were facing total annihilation. I mean, a death sentence had been signed by the most powerful king on the planet. The stakes literally could not have been higher. And to make it even worse, there was a law, a protocol, that said she couldn't even go see the king. If she showed up uninvited, it was an automatic death sentence. So what's her plan against an irreversible law and a deadly protocol? She calls for a 3-day fast. She's betting everything on this one spiritual weapon. And the result is just mind-blowing. She breaks protocol, she walks in, and instead of calling for the guards, the king looks at her and says, "What do you want? Ask me for up to half of my kingdom." I mean, think about that. He went from "you die if you approach me" to "I'll give you half of my power." And this is the absolute key takeaway from that story. The sermon argues that this complete 180 from the king had nothing to do with her beauty or her charm. It was a tangible spiritual power, what's called a perfume from heaven, this divine favor that was unlocked specifically by that 3-day fast. So that leads to the next obvious question. What does this divine favor actually do? In a practical, day-to-day sense, what does it unlock? The sermon lays out 3 huge outcomes. First, it opens your heaven, which basically means connecting you to a spiritual economy that isn't bound by earthly limitations. Second, it commands the allegiance of other people, making them want to support you and your cause. And third, it can literally cause a wealth transfer, putting you in the right place at the right time to seize major opportunities. Yeah, that idea of commanding allegiance, it's tied directly to this principle that the heart of the king is in the hands of the Lord. The suggestion is that favor gives you influence over the hearts of people in power, letting you break through rules and protocols that would stop anyone else in their tracks. Now, this is super important to understand. This is not a magic wand that replaces hard work. The sermon is very clear on this. You still have to be qualified. You still have to put in the effort. This favor is described as a kind of spiritual perfume that works alongside your hard work. It's that extra, unseen advantage that your intelligence or your resume just can't give you. And that brings us to our final thought for today. The entire argument we've just explored is that mastering our appetite is the key to unlocking this incredible spiritual power. So the question to leave you with is this. In our world today, with its endless distractions and temptations, what is the one appetite that holds the most influence over your life?